You know what really grinds my gears? When people say they don't make them like they used to. Because here's the thing, they're absolutely right. I've been wrenching on classic American iron for 2 decades now, and I've seen cars with 500,000 miles that still fire up every morning like it's day one. These machines weren't just transportation, they were engineering statements. They were built during an era when a car was supposed to last you a lifetime, not just until the next model year. Now, I'm not talking about some theoretical list cooked up by an algorithm. Every single vehicle I'm about to show you, I've either owned one, worked on one, or know someone who's still daily driving one. We're talking about the legends, the workhorses, the survivors, the vehicles that laugh in the face of planned obsolescence. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into 15 old cars that were genuinely built to last forever. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're gonna understand why some of these machines are still commanding respect on the roads today. Let's get into it. Number 15, 1985 to 1995 Toyota pickup. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Have you ever wondered why you still see these little trucks everywhere, even though they stopped making them 3 decades ago? The Toyota pickup from this era is basically automotive cockroach territory. I'm talking about the truck that refuses to die. Now, I know what you're thinking, this is supposed to be about American vehicles. But stick with me, because understanding what made this thing bulletproof helps us appreciate what American manufacturers were doing right during the same period. These pickups came with either a 22R or 22R 4-cylinder engine, and these power plants are legendary. Cast iron block, overhead cam, and built with tolerances that would make a Swiss watchmaker jealous. I've personally seen these engines run for over 300,000 miles without a rebuild. The secret? Simplicity. No unnecessary electronics, no overly complicated emission systems, just solid mechanical engineering. The frames on these trucks were overbuilt for their size. Yeah, they'd rust in the salt belt, but the actual structural integrity was incredible. The suspension components were agricultural-grade tough. You could load these things down with twice their rated capacity, and they'd just keep going. What really sets these apart is the drivetrain. The manual transmissions were virtually indestructible, and even the automatics, which usually aren't known for longevity, would soldier on for hundreds of thousands of miles with basic maintenance. We're talking about a truck where changing the oil and adjusting the valves every 60,000 miles was basically all the major maintenance you needed. Number 14, 1987 to 1996 Ford F-150. Now we're talking American muscle. Want to know why these trucks are still hauling lumber and towing trailers across America? The OBS F-150, that's old body style for you newcomers, represents Ford at its absolute peak of building simple, reliable workhorses. This generation came with the bulletproof inline-6 4.9-liter engine, and folks, this is one of the greatest engines Ford ever built. 7 main bearings, low-stress design, and torque for days. These engines would routinely hit 300,000 miles, and I know guys who've pushed them past 500,000 with nothing more than regular maintenance. But here's what really made these trucks special. Ford wasn't trying to be fancy. They used body-on-frame construction with thick steel. The frames were robust, the suspension was simple and repairable, and everything was designed to be fixed with basic tools. You didn't need a computer to diagnose these trucks, you needed a socket set and some common sense. The manual transmissions were Mazda-sourced and virtually bulletproof. The automatic E4 odd and later 4R70W transmissions had their quirks, but they were rebuildable and tough when maintained. The four-wheel drive system on these trucks was mechanical and simple, no electronic transfer case modules to fail at the worst possible moment. Parts availability for these trucks is still incredible. You can walk into any parts store in America and get what you need. The aftermarket support is massive because so many of these trucks are still on the road. That's the mark of a vehicle built to last, when the support infrastructure remains strong decades after production ends. Number 13, 1980 to 1996 Ford Bronco. Here's a question that'll get you thinking, what's the only full-size SUV from the 80s that people are actively seeking out and restoring today? The full-size Bronco is having a serious moment right now, and it's not just nostalgia. These trucks were over-engineered in the best possible way. Built on the F-150 platform, they inherited all that truck's reliability but added the versatility of an SUV body. The same 4.9-liter inline-6 and 5.0 or 5.8-liter V8 engines that powered the F-150 were available here, giving you proven power plants with decades of refinement behind them. What made these Broncos special was their simplicity and their capability. The four-wheel drive system was robust and mechanical. The transfer case was a new process unit, basically the same design that had been proving itself in military vehicles for decades. The solid front axle meant you could rebuild everything with basic skills, and the suspension components were heavy-duty. The body construction was old-school tough. Yeah, they'd rust, but the actual structure was substantial. The doors hung on massive hinges, the tailgate was built like a bank vault, and the removable top gave you versatility that modern SUVs can't match. These weren't unibody crossovers trying to pretend they were trucks, these were actual body-on-frame vehicles that could take a beating. I've seen Broncos with original engines and transmissions well past 250,000 miles. The secret is that there's nothing complicated to break. No air suspension to fail, no complex electronic systems, no turbochargers or direct injection to cause problems. Just simple, proven mechanical systems that you can maintain and repair yourself. Number 12, 1977 to 1990 Chevrolet Caprice. Ready for something that'll surprise you? What if I told you one of the most reliable cars ever built was a full-size Chevy sedan? The Caprice from this era, especially with the 305 or 350 small block V8, is one of those vehicles that just refuses to quit. These were the cars that police departments, taxi companies, and fleet managers relied on to rack up massive mileage with minimal drama. And when you've got cops and cab drivers trusting a vehicle, you know it's solid. The small block Chevy V8 is one of the most successful engine designs in automotive history, and for good reason. Simple pushrod design, parts availability that's absolutely unmatched, and engineering that was refined over decades. These engines would easily hit 200,000 miles with basic maintenance, and rebuilding them was straightforward and affordable. The body-on-frame construction meant these cars could take a beating. The frames were substantial, the suspension was simple and durable, and everything was designed to be serviced. The TH700R4 transmission behind these engines was strong and reliable when properly maintained. No complex electronics, no temperamental systems, just a solid, traditional automatic transmission. What really impresses me about these Caprices is how many are still on the road today. You'll see them in working-class neighborhoods, still serving as daily drivers for people who can't afford new cars. They're still running because they were built during an era when Chevy actually cared about durability. These cars prove that American manufacturers knew how to build vehicles that lasted, when they wanted to. Number 11, 1973 to 1987 Chevrolet CK Pickup. Here's something that'll get you fired up. What's the truck that defines an entire era of American automotive dominance? The square-body Chevy pickup is having a massive resurgence right now, and it's not just about looks. These trucks were legitimately built to be worked hard and maintained easily. The same small-block V8 engines that powered the Caprice were available here, giving you proven reliability in a truck platform. The 250 inline-six was also available, and that engine is virtually indestructible. These trucks used simple, robust construction throughout. The frames were heavy-duty, the suspension was agricultural-grade tough, and the four-wheel drive system on equipped models was mechanical and reliable. The SM465 4-speed manual transmission is legendary for its durability. You basically cannot break these transmissions without seriously trying. What made these trucks special was their repairability. Everything was accessible, everything was logical, and you could fix pretty much anything with basic hand tools. The electrical systems were simple, no computer modules, no complex wiring harnesses, just straightforward automotive electricals that anyone could troubleshoot. Parts availability for these trucks remains incredible. The aftermarket is massive because so many of these trucks are still in service. You can buy everything from body panels to complete drivetrain components. This level of support exists because the trucks themselves were built well enough that people want to keep them running. I know guys running these trucks with over 400,000 miles on the original engines. We're talking about trucks that have spent decades hauling trailers, plowing snow, and serving as work vehicles. They're still going because they were over-engineered in the best possible way. Number 10, 1992 to 1996 Ford F-250/F-350 with 7.3 ED diesel. Now here's a curveball for you. Ever wonder why diesel mechanics get excited about an engine that most people have never heard of? The 7.3-liter ED diesel in these Super Duty trucks is one of the most underrated engines Ford ever installed. This is an indirect injection diesel, which means it's not as powerful or fuel efficient as modern diesels, but it's absolutely bulletproof. These engines were built by International Harvester, and they brought decades of heavy-duty diesel experience to the design. The ED is essentially a mechanical engine with minimal electronics. You've got a mechanical injection pump, no turbo on the naturally aspirated versions, and construction that's agricultural-grade robust. These engines routinely hit 300,000 to 400,000 miles, and I've personally seen them go past 500,000 with proper maintenance. The secret is simplicity. There's nothing to break because there's nothing complicated installed. The trucks themselves were overbuilt. The frames on these F250 and F350 models were massive, designed to handle serious payload and towing. The axles were Dana or Ford Sterling units, both known for their durability. The manual transmissions were bulletproof, and even the automatic E4 could handle the torque when properly maintained. What really sets these trucks apart is their longevity in work environments. These aren't garage queens, these are trucks that spent their lives hauling heavy loads, towing trailers, and working on construction sites. They're still running today because they were built without compromise. Ford and International weren't trying to meet fuel economy standards or emissions targets that didn't exist yet, they were just building the toughest truck they could. Number 9, 1987 to 1995 Jeep Wrangler Each. Here's something that'll get the Jeep faithful nodding. What's the Wrangler that real enthusiasts actually prefer? The Jeep Wrangler gets overlooked because of its square headlights, but this is actually one of the most durable Jeeps ever built. These came with either a 2.5-liter four-cylinder or a 4.0-liter inline-six, and that 4.0 is legendary in the Jeep world. This engine is basically unstoppable. I've seen them run with cracked blocks, I've seen them survive overheating that would kill any other engine, and I've seen them routinely hit 300,000 miles without major work. They use leaf springs front and rear, which some people criticize for ride quality. But here's the thing, leaf springs are simple, durable, and easy to maintain. No complicated coil spring setup with a million bushings to wear out. The solid axles front and rear meant everything was rebuildable and serviceable. The manual transmissions were either AX5 or AX15 units, both robust designs that could handle abuse. What makes these Jeeps special is their simplicity. No complex electronics, no fancy systems to fail, just mechanical components that you can maintain and repair yourself. The four-wheel drive system is straightforward and reliable. The body is essentially a tub on a frame, primitive by modern standards, but incredibly durable. The parts availability for these Jeeps is incredible because the aftermarket is massive. You can build an entire Jeep from catalog parts if you wanted to. This level of support exists because these Jeeps were built well enough that people want to keep them running and improving them. Number 8, 1996 to 2007 Ford Ranger. Alright, before you skip ahead, hear me out. Why are these little trucks still everywhere despite being discontinued for years? The Ford Ranger from this generation is one of those vehicles that just works. The 3.0-liter Vulcan V6 and 4.0-liter SAIC V6 engines are incredibly reliable. Yeah, they're not powerful by modern standards, but they're durable as anything. These engines routinely hit 200,000 to 300,000 miles with basic maintenance. The secret is conservative engineering. These weren't high-strung performance engines, they were designed for reliability. The truck itself was built with simplicity in mind. Body-on-frame construction, simple suspension, mechanical four-wheel drive system on equipped models. The manual transmissions were robust Mazda units, and the automatic transmissions were reliable when maintained. Everything about these trucks was designed to be serviced and repaired easily. What really impresses me is how many of these Rangers are still serving as work trucks. You'll see them at construction sites, in landscaping fleets, and being used by contractors. They're still working because they were built during an era when Ford still cared about making small trucks that lasted. These weren't trying to be luxury vehicles, they were honest work trucks. The affordability of parts and maintenance makes these trucks incredibly practical. You can keep one running for very little money compared to modern vehicles. This is why you still see so many on the road. They're the perfect combination of reliability and affordability. And hey, if you're enjoying this breakdown of vehicles that were actually built to last, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into automotive history, restoration tips, and real-world reliability every single week. Alright, let's keep rolling. Number 7, 1992 to 2000 Honda Civic. Now I know what you're thinking, another import? But stay with me, because this Civic teaches us something important about longevity. The 5th and 6th generation Civic is legendary for reliability. The D-Series engines in these cars are basically indestructible. I've seen these engines run with no oil, I've seen them overheat repeatedly, and they just keep going. The secret is Honda's conservative engineering and quality control that was absolutely unmatched during this era. These Civics use simple, proven technology. No complicated VTEC on the base models, no turbochargers, no direct injection, just well-engineered naturally aspirated engines with solid internals and excellent manufacturing quality. The manual transmissions were precise and durable, and even the automatic transmissions would run for hundreds of thousands of miles. What made these cars special was their attention to detail. The body construction was excellent, the rust protection was better than American cars of the era, and the electrical systems were reliable. Everything was designed to work properly and last. The suspension components were durable, and the braking systems were simple and effective. Parts availability remains excellent because these cars are still on the road in massive numbers. You can find everything you need online or at any parts store. The aftermarket is huge because the tuner community loves these cars, which means performance and maintenance parts are abundant and affordable. Number 6, 1999 to 2007 Ford F-250/F-350 with 7.3 power stroke. Here's where things get serious. Ready to talk about what might be the most legendary diesel engine ever installed in a pickup truck? The 7.3-liter Power Stroke is the diesel that made Ford a serious player in the heavy-duty truck market. This engine was bulletproof. We're talking about a design that routinely hits 300,000 to 500,000 miles with proper maintenance. The early electronic control, the robust injection system, and the overbuilt internals created an engine that could handle serious abuse. What made this engine special was its simplicity compared to modern diesels. No ultra-high-pressure common rail injection, no diesel particulate filters, no DEF systems, just a solid diesel engine with proven technology. The turbocharger was conservatively sized, the injection pump was reliable, and the block was massively overbuilt. The trucks themselves were properly engineered for heavy-duty work. The frames were substantial, the axles were robust, and the suspension was designed to handle serious payload and towing. These weren't light-duty trucks pretending to be capable, these were legitimate work trucks that could handle commercial use. I've seen these trucks with over 400,000 miles still working on farms, construction sites, and commercial fleets. They're still running because Ford and International built them right. The aftermarket support is massive because so many of these trucks are still in service. You can find parts, information, and expert knowledge everywhere. Number 5, 1964 to 1972 Chevrolet Chevelle. Now we're getting into classic territory, but here's the question: why are these muscle cars still viable daily drivers when so many of their contemporaries aren't? The Chevelle from this era represents GM at its peak. These cars were built on robust platforms with proven drivetrains. The small block Chevy V8 options, 283, 307, 327, 350, were all incredibly reliable engines. Even the big block options like the 396 and 454 were durable when not abused. These were simple pushrod V8s with massive parts availability and straightforward maintenance. The body construction was solid steel throughout. Yeah, they'd rust without protection, but the actual structure was robust. The frames were substantial, the suspension was simple and durable, and everything was designed to be serviced. These weren't unibody designs with complex structures, these were body-on-frame cars with traditional construction. What makes these Chevelles special is their versatility. You can build them as cruisers, you can build them as muscle cars, or you can maintain them as stock daily drivers. The mechanical simplicity means anyone with basic skills can maintain and repair them. No computer diagnostics needed, no special tools required, just traditional automotive knowledge. The parts availability is incredible because the aftermarket for these cars is massive. You can build an entire Chevelle from reproduction parts if you wanted to. This level of support exists because these cars were built well enough that people want to keep them on the road. Number 4, 1987 to 1996 Dodge Ram with Cummins diesel. Alright, now we're talking about a truck that changed everything. Ever wonder how Dodge went from being a distant third in truck sales to a serious competitor? The first-generation Cummins Dodge is legendary, and for good reason. That 5.9-liter Cummins inline-six is one of the most durable engines ever installed in a light-duty truck. We're talking about an engine that routinely hits 500,000 miles, with many examples going past 1,000,000 miles. The secret is Cummins' commercial diesel experience. This wasn't an automotive engine adapted for trucks, this was a commercial engine adapted for automotive use. The early 12-valve Cummins is especially beloved because of its simplicity. Mechanical injection pump, no electronics to speak of, and construction that's agricultural-grade robust. You can work on these engines with basic tools, and they respond incredibly well to maintenance. The later 24-valve added more power and electronics but maintained the core durability. The trucks themselves were decent but not spectacular. The frames and axles were adequate, though not as robust as Ford or GM offerings. But the Cummins engine made up for any shortcomings in the rest of the truck. The manual transmissions were excellent, though the automatic options were weak points that needed upgrades for serious use. What's incredible is how many of these trucks are still working today. You'll see them hauling trailers, working on farms, and serving in commercial fleets. They're still running because that Cummins engine simply won't quit. The aftermarket support is massive because the enthusiast community for these trucks is huge. Number 3, 1973 to 1979 Ford F-250/F-350. Here's something that'll resonate with anyone who knows trucks. What's the Ford that truck guys consider the ultimate work truck? The highboy and later dentside F-250 and F-350 models from this era represent Ford trucks at their absolute toughest. These came with proven engines like the 300 inline-6, 360 V8, 390 V8, and 460 V8. All of these were low-stress, durable designs that would run forever with basic maintenance. The 300 inline-6 especially is legendary. That engine is virtually indestructible. The highboy models, which came with divorced transfer cases and straight front axles, are especially prized today. These were trucks designed for serious four-wheel drive work before anyone cared about luxury or comfort. The frames were massive, the axles were robust Dana units, and the suspension was built to handle serious loads. What made these trucks special was their honest, straightforward design. No pretense, no unnecessary features, just truck. The four-wheel drive systems were mechanical and simple. The manual transmissions were heavy-duty units designed for commercial use. Everything was rebuildable and serviceable with basic tools. These trucks are still working today because they were over-engineered. Ford wasn't trying to save weight or cut costs, they were building trucks that could handle commercial and industrial use. The proof is in how many are still on the road, still working on farms and construction sites decades after they were built. Number 2, 1994 to 2001 Dodge Ram 1500 with Magnum V8. Now here's a truck that doesn't get enough credit, ready to learn about one of the most reliable half-ton trucks ever built. The second-generation Ram with the 5.2 or 5.9-liter Magnum V8 is incredibly durable. These were updated versions of Chrysler's LA Series small block V8, with decades of refinement behind them. The Magnum engines featured better cylinder heads, improved fuel injection, and more durable internals. These engines routinely hit 200,000 to 300,000 miles with basic maintenance. The trucks themselves were well built for the era. The frames were substantial, the suspension was robust, and the drivetrain components were proven. The 46R and 47R automatic transmissions were strong when properly maintained, and the manual transmission options were excellent. The four-wheel drive system used proven transfer cases and solid front axles on equipped models. What impressed me about these Rams is how many are still serving as work trucks. You'll see them at job sites, in work fleets, and being used hard by people who need a truck that won't quit. They're still running because Dodge built them right during this era. No fancy electronics, no complicated systems, just solid mechanical engineering. The parts availability is good because these trucks sold in huge numbers. The aftermarket is decent, and you can find what you need to keep these trucks running. The value proposition is incredible. You can buy a reliable truck for very little money compared to modern vehicles. Number 1, 1967 to 1972 Chevrolet C10/C20 pickup. Here it is, the number 1 spot, and I'm giving it to what might be the most iconic truck ever built. The second-generation C10 and C20 pickups represent Chevrolet at its absolute peak. These trucks came with bulletproof engines like the 250 and 292 inline-6s, plus small block V8 options like the 307, 327, and 350. All of these were proven, durable engines with decades of refinement. The inline-6s especially are legendary for reliability. These engines would run forever with basic maintenance. The truck construction was simple and robust. Body-on-frame design with substantial frames, simple suspension with proven components, and mechanical systems throughout. No electronics, no complicated systems, just straightforward truck engineering. The manual transmissions were heavy-duty units, and the automatic options were proven designs. What makes these trucks special is their timeless design and incredible durability. These aren't trucks that look dated, they still look great today. The mechanical simplicity means anyone can maintain and repair them. The parts availability is absolutely incredible because the aftermarket is massive. You can find everything you need to keep these trucks running or restore them to perfection. I've seen these trucks with over 300,000 miles on original engines and transmissions. I've seen them serving as daily drivers, work trucks, and show vehicles. They're still on the road because Chevrolet built them without compromise. These were trucks designed to last a lifetime, and many of them have proven that goal was achievable. The community around these trucks is incredible. Knowledge is shared freely, parts are abundant, and expertise is everywhere. This is what happens when a manufacturer builds something so well that generations of enthusiasts want to keep them alive. So there you have it, 15 vehicles that prove manufacturers used to know how to build things that lasted. These aren't theoretical picks or algorithmic nonsense. Every single one of these vehicles has proven itself in the real world, racking up hundreds of thousands of miles while maintaining reliability that modern vehicles struggle to match. What's the common thread here? Simplicity, robust engineering, and proven designs. These vehicles weren't trying to be cutting edge or meet arbitrary efficiency standards. They were built to work, to last, and to be maintained by regular people with basic tools. The sad reality is that modern vehicles, for all their technological advancement, rarely match the durability of these classics. Planned obsolescence, complex electronics, and cost-cutting have replaced the engineering philosophy that created these legends. But here's the good news: all of these vehicles are still out there, still running, still proving that good engineering never goes out of style. Whether you're looking for a reliable work truck, a fun project, or just want to understand what real durability looks like, these 15 vehicles are where you should start looking. If you found this valuable, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're doing deep dives on classic vehicles, restoration projects, and real-world reliability every week. Drop a comment and let me know which of these vehicles you've owned or worked on. And if I missed your favorite durable classic, tell me about it, maybe it'll make the next list. Until next time, keep those classics running, and remember, they really don't make them like they used to. And that's not just nostalgia talking, that's proven by every one of these vehicles still on the road today.